Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig.
Hey, Jeff.
Hello.
What? That was a football game?
That's one way to describe it.
Yep. I mean, there's no debating that a football game was played at Martin Stadium, and there's no debating that the Washington State Cougars won. So, those are 2 points that that were good. Both were good. And this is Podcast versus Everyone, episode 172. I'm Craig Powers. With me, as always, is Jeff Nusser. Jeff, 24-17 against the Idaho Vandals of the FCS of the Big Sky. Doesn't make you feel super great. I mean, it's better than we've done worse in these Big Sky matchups before. So I've been trying to think about that, how I would feel, how I would have felt on Saturday, how I would have felt, the coming days if maybe Idaho scores that touchdown at the end and then goes for 2 and beats us. I think it would have been a much different vibe rather than now it's like, maybe we aren't that good. It would have been, oh my God, we just lost to fucking Idaho, which would have been the most annoying thing. I was going
to say the last time we lost to Idaho, I distinctly remember yelling out, because this was, I don't know, what was it, 2000, I think, right? Or 1999, something like that.
The second time in a row, you mean?
Yeah. And I distinctly remember shouting out, I don't care if Mike Price took us to a Rose Bowl. You cannot lose to Idaho. At which time my boss at the time, a guy named Don Borst, if we have any listeners who are sort of longtime Tacoma residents who remember reading him at the News Tribune, college football writer there. He's my boss at the time working at CBSSports.com. And he looked at me and he said, nothing that man could ever do should make you want to fire him. I'm like, I don't care. And I was young. I was an idiot. I was, 23 or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't care. You cannot lose to Idaho. And he's like, you are an idiot. You're so young. You don't understand. Like, he took you to a Rose Bowl. Little did I know, like, another Rose Bowl was coming after that. But
yeah.
Anyway, losing to Idaho is really, really, really not good. This would have been especially not good considering they're now not even a good FCS team, right? Like, they're a mediocre FCS team. So, I mean, thankful that they figured out a way to pull out the victory. And, to be honest, and I think, Stephen Ayers, who wrote, I think, a really nice column about that this morning, sort of spoke to this, like the game was not as close as the final score. Like, and I think everybody kind of knows that, but also, everybody expects that you just, are going to steamroll Idaho. And when that doesn't happen, then people, tend to jump to conclusions. I think part of it was, I think the biggest part was that the offense just didn't look very good for the most part.
Which we were worried about. I mean,
we were.
It's a new offense.
The funny part was that they didn't look bad for the reasons we were worried about, though.
Yes.
So.
Also, I'm looking at the total game time. 3 hours and 51 minutes. Good God.
To score 31 or 41 points.
Yeah. That's given how many like 3 and out punts there were, like, I guess that's what got it extended so much. Steven hit it on the head. Nothing's ever as bad as it seemed. I mean, if you look back, the 2015 and 2016 teams that opened the season by losing to an FCS team won 8 and 9, 9 and 8 games. Yeah. So it's these first games, as we learned in the Michael H. era, often aren't that instructive. And we even learned this last year. They're not that instructive. There's so much weirdness around them. If a team's really good and they're really good, sometimes they can get around it. But WSU has destroyed some FCS teams in their first game and then not had terrible teams. And then they've lost to FCS teams and had really good teams. So it's just, what are you going to do? There are things to be worried about. Sure, Cam Moore did not look super good. Let's be honest. He was 25 of 40, where half of his passes are just lateral passes. 62.5% sounds a good completion percentage, but not when, half those throws are gimmies. Right. And where he really seemed to struggle is pushing it down the field. And he really seemed to struggle with maybe not, honestly, he bailed out of the pocket quite a lot. And it only once did it ever actually provide much benefit. And you kind of have to think maybe the way he got chased so much by WSU's defensive line in camp, maybe was in his head, because there was sometimes he'd bail out of the pocket and he was fine, just step up, So I don't know, maybe hopefully the coaching staff can coach him up on some of these things. But yeah, how many was it? 217 yards on 40 passes. So just barely 215. 215. So just barely 5 yards a pass. That does not cut it. Nope. 7.5 is the minimum here, man. Yes. That's not working for me. So that was that part. But then you look at the defense; they're every bit as good as we were hoping they'd be. Idaho was 4 yards of play, basically. You take away that fumble return for a touchdown. You take away the fact that they were on the field for almost 40 minutes. The offense was not helping them out with field position at all. While they were helping the offense out with field position, because the offense really only scored on the possessions where they got the ball inside the 50. So that was another thing with the offense. They really couldn't. Aside from that drive that was trying to kill the game, they couldn't really. Which, I think you just cannot trust kickers at those extreme angles, like with the field goals that are inside the 10-yard line.
Yes,
it's such a hard angle because, Leaf observed on the broadcast, Janikowski didn't hit it poorly. It just, you have to hit it really strange. You have to hit it with such an extreme
you got to hit
angle.
it way farther to the right than being on that left hash. There is no other place on the field where you're going to hit it like that, right? You're literally pushing it to the right.
I was just this morning. I got interviewed by the Clarion Ledger in Mississippi about some of Mike Leach's craziest games, and of course at WSU because they're playing Arizona this week, and of course they brought up the Cal game, and that made me think that's it. That was a 19-yard field goal at the end, but it was from the right hash instead of the left. But it's such an extreme angle to try to get in. And it always makes you wonder why college football has those hashes like that. I don't know. I don't know why they're so extreme. But anyways, that's just the game should have ended right at that moment, but it didn't. And we had to endure that final drive, which was, the first time really Idaho had strung together multiple chunk plays in the entire game. Because their field goal they got before, I guess the drive before they did as well. So, but at the point you got to think maybe the defense is just gassed at this point. The last two drives, they give up nothing all day, and then it's the last two drives. You can only do so much. Especially that defensive line rushing over and over and over again. that's the spot where you're really going to get gassed.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like I can't really fault the defense for too much on those last 2 drives. They shouldn't have been put in that position. It was really a tough sledding for them, and they performed like really well for 95% of the game.
Yeah, I was super impressed with the defense. They did everything I think that we hoped they would do. They were fair up until those last 2 drives. They were, flat dominant. They did exactly what we would want them to do. Lots of tackles for loss, right? Brennan Jackson was everywhere. That guy was incredible. Ron Stone was really, really good at the times he was in the game. I think there were sort of long stretches where he wasn't in the game. So I think they're kind of trying to ease him back. In fact, there was a point at which I was like, did he get hurt? But then he came back in toward the end. I think maybe they had him on a bit of a pitch count. So, defense was really good. And then, we haven't even talked yet about Dion Henley, who was incredible. Like he is he looks like an NFL linebacker, like just legit from an athleticism standpoint, from a strength standpoint. I mean, he is just he is a special kind of player, I think. And I'm super excited to see what he does. And this isn't even like talking about all the funny sound bites after the game where he was, after he intercepted it. Right. And he was like talking about, whether to go down or whether to try and score a touchdown. And people have to remember too. I mean, I don't know how many of our fans are sort of acutely aware of this, but I mean, he started as a wide receiver. Before he was a linebacker, he was a wide. He is like when he was
a quarterback at one point.
Yeah, he was a quarterback in high school, and then he switched to wide receiver in college, like a lot of quarterbacks do. And then he flipped over to defense, and it's like, just as he kind of has gotten bigger and bigger. But yeah, so when that ball was in the air, it was like
he flipped over to defense as a junior. By the way, this was not. This was not. Yeah, he played 2 seasons as a wide receiver.
Yeah, yep. So he's in his 3rd season as a linebacker is all, and he's really, really good. So defense was good. The offense, I'm not worried about it. And I think it's important to point out what I said earlier was, the offense was not bad in the ways that we were worried they would be bad. So when I look at these first games, like I'm looking for something where I'm like, man, this is going to be a problem, right? Like, if you can't even do that against Idaho, that is going to be a problem. Well, like something I would have been looking for would be, the offensive line, right? We were worried about the offensive line. Were they just a total mess against Idaho, right? Like, and not just like a mess, like with blocking assignments or whatever, but like, getting beat, where you'd go, oh shit, like we're getting beat by Idaho. This is going to be a problem, right? Didn't see that, for the most part. Cam Ward's pocket was clean. He had more time to throw than he needed most of the time. And when he would scramble, it was mostly because he had just held onto the ball a long time. So that was encouraging. And also the fact that, we were able to run the ball a little, not a little, we were able to run the ball well, I should say. So that was good. I mean, if we do the sack adjusted rushing, it was 158 rushing yards at 7.2 yards a pop. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So all those things make me feel okay about the line. I mean, they may not be great. I don't know. Maybe they're going to go to Wisconsin and get, slapped around. But at the same time, like I didn't see anything against Idaho that made me think like a disaster is imminent, right? Which is kind of, I think, what we were worried about. Yeah.
If you look at the 3 sacks, I would say I can think of at least 2 off my head that were really Cam Ward. They were totally on Cam Ward, so we'll say it over and over again, and I know you say it all the time on Twitter too. Is like quarterbacks, like sacks our QB stat. We as longtime Seahawks fans, we learned that with Russell Wilson over the years.
Yep.
But it's so hopefully that's not something. And I mean, one thing that's nice is it was 3 sacks for 15 yards. He's not taking 10, 12-yard sacks. Like maybe the last sack happy quarterback we had was Luke Falk his last year, and he was taking some brutal sacks.
Yep.
But at least Cam can kind of stretch out the play, just get, tackled near the line of scrimmage or whatever. So it was nice to see, Nakia Watson, look better.
Yeah.
And Jayla Jacobs looks awesome. Like, I really wish they wouldn't have pulled him out when he fumbled.
I know.
I know
It's
that
such
coaches do that with young players, but honestly, man, leave him in. Like, he made an incredible play before he fumbled the ball. Like, it was so, like, it was like early booby level, like freshman booby level, like, stuff. So it's, and so that was, and his touchdown was super impressive. It was just all just speed.
The acceleration the acceleration's the big thing. Like when he steps on the gas, he goes, and he looked like he was just in a different gear. Now, again, playing against Idaho, but also I don't know how many of our receivers kind of look like that. So, how many of our offensive players looked like they were running a different, at a different gear than the others. And he looked great doing that. So I'm excited to see more of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And then hopefully, one game in, Cam Moore can get, a little bit better page with the wide receivers and game speed. There was definitely some really nice looking, just from a scheme and standpoint, some really nice looking stuff. I mean, that touchdown to Deshaun Stribling, that was not a play in the Mike Leach air raid. Like that was not something that Mike Leach was running. That fake pitch, and Idaho had no idea it was coming. Kind of wish that we didn't have to use it against Idaho.
But they were all turning around like, wait, what is happening? Where's the ball? It was hilarious.
I will say, Cam has great play fakes. When either if it's he sticks the ball in the gut of the runner. He does a great job with that. So there's a lot to like. Who knows? Maybe there was some nervousness. I don't think that's going to get any easier next week. But overall, we didn't lose. Like so. Yeah. Let's learn in a win. And if we are really this bad, then fine. But I really doubt we're that bad. And Idaho probably, yes, a little bit better than maybe we thought they were. But I just don't. I think we've seen offenses, especially air raid offenses, start slowly like pretty much every season under Mike Leach.
Yep.
With the exception of Anthony Gordon, like every other season they started slowly. So this is
think back to that first game with Gardner Minshew against Wyoming, where it was like,
he was around 5 yards a pass as well. Like he was around 5 yards a pass in that game too.
Yeah,
I mean that was a much better defense, we'll say. But
yes. And I think Idaho played it exactly as they should have. I mean, we talk, you and I have talked about this before on the show, and like, hey, when you're a heavy underdog, man, play a high variance strategy. Like give yourself, there may be, give yourself a chance for some high upside, even if maybe there's some downside to it as well. And he did that. He was super aggressive on fourth downs, and, they got the benefit of a couple of turnovers, and, so I think they played it, about as well as you could. And, I definitely Eck brought some energy, and to be honest, he's obviously, they had some transfers too. He's obviously infused some talent in that program as well. So,
and they were in such a bad place with Petrino.
Yes.
Yes.
So kudos to them. I mean, I didn't see anything that made me feel, super down. I think the offense will figure it out. I was a little bit surprised that we didn't at least rip off a handful of explosives.
Yes.
Just merely based on the talent discrepancy. That was kind of like, I figured, well, maybe, yes, if there's some inconsistency, fine, but, we'll probably hit some big plays just because, right? And we really didn't. I think our longest play was a running play of 20 some yards.
Yeah, that was, I think, Watson to start the final drive.
Yeah.
It was like 25-yard run. Yeah.
Yep. So that was a bummer for me. But, I'm curious what you think about this too. So somebody floated the idea that the Cougars really treated this more or less like a preseason game. rotating guys, keeping the playbook relatively vanilla. I mean, we just talked about like the crazy play to score the touchdown to Stribling, but at the same time, I don't know, I mean, maybe there's something to that. The reality is we only ran the ball 19 times. We could have run the ball twice as many times as that, and probably just run up and down the field. Yep. And they didn't, right? So that kind of leads me to believe that they were, to some degree, treating this as a way to work out the kinks and get ready for Wisconsin, which of course is always, there's some risk involved in doing that, but at the same time,
if you get out with the W,
yeah. I mean, what, do you think that is potentially legit?
Yeah, no, I remember looking down at times, especially late once they got the 2 touchdown lead, that drive they give to Idaho, it felt like there wasn't the full team on there. And then, like you said, they were limited in the use of Ron Stone, and just it felt like they were rotating guys to me, and like there was a lot of guys. And if I watched the second half on DVR, honestly, because it's kind of hard sometimes. You get a little distracted up in the suite, but yeah, it just felt like their guys were running in it off and on constantly on defense and on offense. Obviously, I mean, when you're talking about explosives, like if Jacobs doesn't fumble the ball, he probably gets half a dozen more touches, and I feel like if he had a half a dozen touches in that game, one of them's going for 70 at some point, and so I wouldn't totally dismiss that notion. I would hope that one thing that does, they didn't go on a 4th and 2 early in the game and stuff, and that kind of stuff is the stuff that, regardless of how they're playing the game, like that, I don't like that. Like 4th and 2 at midfield should be an auto go, especially if you're playing a team that you can get 2 yards. Like against,
yes, but that's having the defensive coach, right? Like, I mean, we know that, and I wrote the big, long, 2,000 words on how Dickert has done all the right things and hasn't been the, doesn't seem to be defensive, dogmatic, all these things, right? But the reality is he's still a defensive coach, right? And so he's looking at that going, okay, I could go for 2 yards, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was still 10-0 at that point, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or was it 10-7? It was 10-0, 10-7, something like that. We were losing.
No, it's 10-0 because 10-7, when we made it 10-7, we got the ball right back on an interception.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's 10-0. Like, you got a defensive coach. He's like, look, I don't want to make this any worse. And, I've got a pretty good punter, and let's pin him deep-ish. Let my defense do its thing, and then let's try again. I don't know. Like, I'm as, never punt as anybody, but I looked at that and went like, I get it. If I was playing a video game, I'd be like, hell yeah, we're going for it. But it's also like, he's still a defensive coach, and, and knowing what our defense had done up until that point, I'm like, yeah. I mean, it kind of makes sense to punt it and put him under some pressure deep, and, and then try again after that. So I don't know. I wouldn't have made that decision, but I also was like, nah, I wasn't as perturbed by it maybe as some people.
Yeah. Maybe if you've just accepted it, but it's to me, I always think that the thing that, when you grew up watching, and they still do it, color commentators will say like, oh, this coach is going to punt it away and trust his defense. Well, like, I feel like if you trust your defense, then that should make you want to go for it even more.
You would think so.
Like, if you think your defense is good, then you don't care if they have 55 yards or 80 yards to defend. Like, who cares?
Yes.
And so whatever. I'm just gonna have to accept that. We had a couple coaches, even Rolovich and Leach before him, that would always go in that situation. So it's going to be an adjustment back to that. And I know there's a lot of people that will be happy with it. Going on fourth makes them uncomfortable. So
yeah, there are a lot of people that are going to be happy about that.
Yeah, honestly, if you want to maximize, you got if we can, let's put a bow on this. We've said it wasn't the win that we hoped, but it was still a win, and that's that. You know what? Like I've seen worse, and there isn't some. There are things that can be fixed, and let's hope it. But here's the thing: when we talk about taking these risks and stuff, and you were talking about how Eck was playing to maximize opportunities, that's something that WSU is going to have to do against Wisconsin. And we're going to switch.
Yes.
We'll talk about Wisconsin now. Wisconsin is good. They're physical. They're at home. It's going to be a 80,000 people, raucous crowd. Probably the loudest crowd that this team will deal with all year. Especially given since they're not going to be playing, at like Husky Stadium, or maybe they're playing at Autzen. Maybe Autzen will be a little louder. No, they're not. They're Oregon's coming to WSU. So this is going to be the loudest crowd they face all season.
Yep.
It's going to be an emotional game for Dickert, who's from Wisconsin. He said he has 200 tickets that he had to buy. 200 people are coming. So it's going to be emotional for him. So this is going to be a tough one. And WSU, like, I think it's not difficult to say they're at a talent disparity here. They double-digit underdogs in this game. They need to maximize opportunities. If he has a 4th and 2 and they're down 10-0 to Wisconsin, I sure hope he has a different mindset and goes for it against them. That's what I would say. Because you're going to need to convert that. Because, as good as WSU's defense looks, and they're going to be playing a team not that runs a similar offense, but runs similar in terms of run-pass ratio as Idaho in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, in their opening game against an FCS school, Illinois State, they threw the ball a whopping total of 16 times.
Yep.
In 53 offensive plays.
Yep.
So that's and let me see sacks. Did they give up any sacks? Or interestingly, this is something that's interesting. They did give up 3 sacks. So they actually tried to throw 19 times out of 53 plays. But still, they're definitely they're a run attack, but so that was kind of like, we're in the bigger leagues now. Idaho ran the ball a bunch until they got down. But obviously Wisconsin, Braylon Allen and several other guys that are going to be carrying the ball, difficult, big ass offensive line against our, smaller defensive line. So that'll be like the thing to watch as if WSU can keep this close and be in a place to get an upset.
Yeah. 37 rushes for Wisconsin, right? You mentioned only 16 passes. So 37 rushes, 16 passes. If we
34,
normalize it so 34 and 19. So yeah, almost 2-to-1 rushes to passes. That's they are going to try to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and run the ball.
But they did give up 3 sacks in 19 passes.
They
19
did.
Dropbacks.
Yeah,
that's an awful.
That is interesting.
So I would love to. If WSU could do that, that'd be big.
Yeah. So that is also highly interesting.
Given how many times they ran the ball, they still were at 8.3 yards per play, which is, I mean, I can't tell you anything about Illinois State's defense, but 8.3 when you're running almost twice as much as you're passing,
yes,
that is pretty good. They definitely were hitting big plays on the passing game. And their QB was at 13.7 yards per attempt. So they're definitely running that kind of Pete Carroll style grind and then go deep. So,
and Braylon Allen was over 10 yards an attempt, 10 yards a carry.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't watch the game, so I don't really have a ton of insight here, but yeah, Wisconsin looks very Wisconsin-y.
Yeah, if you just look at the stats, like super Wisconsin-y.
Yeah. So,
and by the way, we talked about how the WSU Idaho game took 3 hours and 51 minutes. Jeff, go ahead and guess a time if you haven't already looked. How long do you think the Wisconsin Illinois State game took?
I'm going to go 2 hours and 47 minutes.
Very close. 2 hours and 49.
Oh, so close. I was so close. Man. But yeah.
So that means
that means with all those rushes.
However it goes, I'm going to have when I go to Wisconsin this weekend, I'm going to have much more time to drink in Madison, I guess.
Yeah. And by the way, Illinois State ran it 26 times. I don't know how many of those were sacks. I don't see sacks on here, but they ran it 26 times and passed it 24. So 26 times for a whopping 57 yards. But
yeah, so that's not a good rate. So hopefully WSU can do a little bit better than that.
I'm real curious to see what the game plan is here. Cam Ward seemed to be a bit hyped up through the first quarter. Mm-hmm. Seemed to settle in a bit in the second quarter. And then, again, just having a hard time getting in sync with the receivers. That's fine. Whatever. I'm really not worried about that. I think that's going to come along. That'll be fine. But I'm really curious to see kind of how we go about this game. And again, whether, Dickert applies, sort of that high variance strategy we talked about, whether we, attempt to run the ball. Like this is a game where, man, they are going to do whatever they have to do to win. So are they going to run it a ton or try to run it a ton? Or are they going to try to keep possessions low? How are they going to try to go about this? I'm honestly not sure. So I'm very, very curious. I do think that what Wisconsin wants to do offensively does play into the hands of our defense a little bit. I know that our tackles aren't the biggest dudes, but they're good.
Yeah.
They're good. So they're good. And then Jackson is not a small defensive end, right? Brennan Jackson is actually a fairly large defensive end at this point. Ron Stone is a fairly small defensive end, but he doesn't have to necessarily be a run stuffer out there very often. And then, I mentioned Henley, I don't know that either middle linebacker solidified anything in this game. It seemed like I was seeing more of Travion Brown than Francisco Mauigoa, but that could also be totally wrong. Like it could just be the moments that I was paying attention to who was playing middle linebacker, Brown was in there. So I honestly don't know. It seemed like he was in there more. I don't have snap counts on that sort of thing, but maybe he wasn't in there more. I honestly don't know. So I'm curious to see where we go with that.
Brown had 2 more tackles, if that helps.
Yeah.
If
I don't know or not.
Yeah.
It might mean they were in there the same amount of time. He just got a couple more tackles. So I don't know. But I do, it's probably famous last words, but I do like our chances to not get completely steamrolled by their running game. I don't know what that looks like exactly, but I do think that I feel like I kind of feel okay about facing a team that is very run oriented. Probably more so than a team with, an explosive passing attack, right? Like I think our secondary is fine, but I'd be more concerned about an explosive passing attack than a really strong running attack, I guess I would say.
I mean, there is a concern that they do seem to use their run game to create explosive plays in the passing game.
Yeah, for sure.
And WSU, if they play Wisconsin the same way they played Idaho, there's gonna be a lot of man coverage. How Idaho in their any success they had in the passing game, they were really utilizing kind of back shoulder stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that encourages me. Like our corners, even when they were getting beat for yardage, it was more that it was like Idaho had to make an incredible play, and obviously Wisconsin's gonna have guys that can do that. But as long as they can keep Wisconsin into longer drives and not and maybe limit the explosive plays. I like this coming down to a red zone game.
Yeah,
because WC's got a pretty fast defense. I like their chances on limiting Wisconsin in the red zone, and so I that if it can come down to that, and they can make Wisconsin extend these drives a bit, and also create more opportunities to take the ball away. WC's definitely going to need a couple 2-3 takeaways in this game to win. I think. Like I don't think they're winning a straight up battle without being plus in the turnover margin. So when it goes to the offense, no fucking fumbling the ball. Like let's not do that.
None of that.
Cam encouraged me that he doesn't seem like a guy that's going to make like a lot of like he even was hesitant on some throws. I don't think he's a guy that's going to push and make really bad decisions, a la like Jarrett Garantano last year or something. And so I think he'll be good at limiting from there. But if the guys can just hold on to the damn ball, or if we can just recover the fumbles, we're due for that now. So if we can win that turnover battle, I think that's going to be a necessity for this game. Yeah. And then also looking at how teams are performing 1-1. I mean, based on what Wisconsin's defense did against Illinois State, they look pretty damn good. Hopefully we can move the ball into the red zone with regularity. But if both teams are making it into the red zone, the maroon zone, the 40 and in, the convert, we call those scoring opportunities when they get inside the 40. If you're looking at how many points they're producing from these scoring opportunities, that's going to tell you if WSU can hang around and if WSU has a real chance at winning this game. If Wisconsin is steamrolling us inside the 40 and they're like no problem, or if they're getting chunk plays and scoring from outside, that's going to be. I just do not see how we can compete if that comes to pass, because I think that our defense is going to have to hold them down, in the 20s to have a chance to win this game, and so I and then look at what WSU does when it can get inside the 40. If is it settling for field goals? Is it punting? Is it that's going to be key early on to know how this thing's going to last, because I have no doubt that Wisconsin probably will have a drive or two in the second half where WSU looks a little gassed and they're tired of getting leaned on. And they get a few chunk run plays a la kind of Oregon State last year, and in the same kind of style of offense, maybe without the as much brute force as Wisconsin has. But it'll be interesting. I mean, I would love, I'm going. There's a lot of Cougs going. It'd be really cool to win. I mean, we're all going for the experience of watching a game in Madison and stuff, but we obviously want to see them win. And they're double-digit underdogs, but it's not like it's out of the realm of possibility. And these are just things that need to happen. They need to convert chances. They need to take the ball away, and they need to stop. They need to hold Wisconsin to some field goals and some. Yep. They are Wisconsin. If you get them in a 4th and 9 from the 39, they'll probably punt the ball.
Yep.
So If at 4th and 2 from the 41, they'll probably punt the ball. So like this is Big Ten football, you know. So use that to your advantage, and I hope Dicker kind of plays a little looser on the 4th downs a bit, especially if it's looking like we're able to pick up 2-3 yards in the run. If those are opportunities we can take, I would love him to take them, and I would love to see Dean Janikowski make all his field goal attempts. If that comes to pass as well, that would be nice.
I agree.
This Idaho game would have looked a little better if he just made two we missed or 3 missed.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's 30-17. You're like,
yeah,
okay, yeah. I think you're right. I think the biggest thing is the turnover thing. Like not going to be able to be negative on turnovers. Like that's. I don't know that we necessarily have to have like a 2 or 3 turnover advantage to be able to win the game, but we certainly are not going to be able to be negative. So I think that's thing number one. You just have to give yourself a chance, give yourself a chance to win. And if they do that, then great, like you said, and I think it's going to largely come down to sequencing for lack of a better term, where, maybe it's a bend but don't break situation, and Wisconsin drives deep into your territory, and all of a sudden on 1st down you get a negative play, and it's 2nd and 12, and then they run it again and they pick up 4 yards, and now it's 3rd and 8. It's like, okay, now you got them where you want them, right? Like they're not those aren't the times they're going to hit those big passing plays necessarily. I mean, they're not prevented from doing so. But
you shouldn't be falling.
Those aren't the situations, right?
You shouldn't be falling for a play fake on 3rd and 8.
Right. So I think that's largely what it's going to come down to. And you can't give up, 60-yard touchdown runs. I think that goes without saying, but I think that's, those are going to be the biggies. So don't, can't be negative on turnovers. No, massively explosive touchdown plays. And then, maybe get lucky on your sequencing a little bit, like you're bending a little bit, but then all of a sudden you get a negative play. I mean, that was the Grinch formula, right? For all those years, you'll give up some yards, but then you get a big negative play, Hercules Matafa busts through the line and takes down a running back for a 4-yard loss. And all of a sudden you're behind the sticks. And I think that's not where Wisconsin wants to operate from. So you need to do that at some point on a drive and make them, try and, make up some yardage through the air. And that's not where they want to be either. So,
and that's kind of where some of the kind of the bending strategy, is helpful. Cause the more down series you create, you're forcing an offense, even if they're moving the ball, the more down series they have to go through, that's just more probability that you can get that sack on 1st or 2nd down and totally throw them off. Or you can get that 3-yard, 4-yard loss and just throw off that down sequence, and there you are. Or, it's more opportunity where you can rip that ball out, more opportunity where their quarterback can make a bad read and throw the ball to you. So that's what it's about. I think, Wisconsin's going to be grinding out drives here. Hopefully, hopefully they're 3 and out every time, but let's just assume they're going to be able to run the ball a bit. But if you're limiting those explosives, then you can create more opportunities for yourself to get that good sequence, get the ball out of their hands, and prevent points. So that's it. That's what you're hoping for. Again, hostile environment, emotional day for the head coach. It's going to be an interesting one. But hey, it's when it comes down to it, it's fun to play these types of games in the non-conference. Like it's so much, like you might lose, but I mean, I take this over having Wyoming at home or something. Honestly, it's a lot more fun to go test yourself, even if maybe your team is not up to par. But let's see where they really are at, and that's what going to play at Wisconsin is going to do.
Yep, and you get to have fun. Like that's the idea.
Yeah, Yeah, your
You
fan
get to have fun, and it's a very college football thing, right? Like this is a thing that you don't get in other sports.
Well, and hope maybe that is not going to be lasting for much longer. But
hey, now this is a space for positivity.
But yeah, it's fun. I've been planning with some of my friends this trip to Wisconsin for like 4 years. We've been talking about this for a long time, and people are really excited. There's gonna be a lot of Cougs there, just from from people I know, and then just from talking to people and like seeing the posts on Die Hard Cougs and on Twitter and all that. Like there's gonna be a ton of Cougs there, and we'll have fun. We get to the WSU official like pregame tailgate thing is having the cheese produced at Wisconsin. With the University of Wisconsin, next to Cougar Gold. So, we can do taste tests against the cheese and all that. So that's exciting. That's fun things you get to do, you get to check out Madison, and everyone says it's a cool college town, and obviously a lot bigger than Pullman, but it'll be fun. It'll be a good time. I'm flying into Chicago, see some friends in Chicago and all that. I love Chicago, and so have a night there will be really cool too.
Yeah, that'll be super fun.
Yeah, so I guess we didn't do this for the Idaho game, but we got to go back to it because we didn't really do a game preview for the Idaho game. We got to do our score prediction for this game. I'm throwing it on you, Jeff. I didn't prepare you.
No.
Let's see. What's the line? What's the line right now?
17.
It is 17. That's a big line. So with the total, pretty low total given the 17-point line, 46.5. So you got a 46.5 total, 17-point favorites, Badgers. Jeff, what are you thinking on the score?
Yeah, so I'm going to... So on our prediction episode, I said 20% chance of winning.
Right.
So I am going to, I think that it's pretty likely. Okay. I'm going to predict Wisconsin wins, and I'm going to predict it's like 27-14. So Cougs cover 27-14, and you hit the under.
All right, 27-14. So, a nice, tidy, probably like 2 hour and 45-minute game. That's actually. Let me also get your prediction on the length of the game here.
Yeah, probably under 3 hours.
Yeah,
unless we fall behind a lot early, and then we end up throwing the ball a bunch more than we want to. But yeah.
So it's interesting enough. We also the halftime spread is 9.5. So looking for Wisconsin to get out on us early. But yeah, I'm kind of where you're at. I'm going to go a little bit higher scoring. I'll say something like 31 to 17. Wisconsin, so just slightly hit the over, but Cougs cover. So yeah, that's what we have to. We're going with our head here, folks. Although maybe if we were truly going with our head, might go a bigger Wisconsin one, but yeah. I don't know. I think our defense gives us a chance to keep this thing close.
I think so, too.
And if our offense can put it together a little more, then we really have a chance. But I think we got a good enough defense that we can avoid getting run off the field here. And if the offense, it does come to play, has improved a bit after, one live game of live action, then, hey, who knows? Who knows what will happen? But yeah, so what, you were 28 14, 27 14.
27
and I was 31 17. All right. Write it down, folks, and then come yell at us later. So with that, let's take a break. We'll come back, talk about volleyball's weekend, talk about soccer's good weekend. Both had great weekends. We'll talk about those a bit. And then, we'll probably talk about beer, let's be honest. We'll be right back.
Back.
Yeah. So I do have to tell you, Jeff, I don't know if you saw in the chat, but the in-laws are already asleep, and I have an exterior door so I can escape without waking them up, so we don't have to worry.
I did see that.
We can be our normal is loquacious the word selves?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job.
But so it's time for beer, and I had a lot of beer this weekend, a lot of beer, also a lot of tequila sodas, because now I have that nice seat up in the suite. But Jeff, and I know I'm going to be drinking a lot of beer this weekend to keep up with those Midwesterners.
You got to show them how it's done.
But yeah, so I'm starting my liver training. And Jeff, just in solidarity with me, what are you drinking?
Well, I have dipped back into the Single Hill well. This is the Lateral A Bold IPA.
Bold IPA.
Yes, which I did not know what a bold IPA was until I read the description. So here we go. Back in 2020, we set out with our friends at Zeke's Pizza and Sip Magazine to brew a one-off IPA that showcased the innovative flavors of new hops growing in the Yakima Valley, brewed with HBC 586 and HBC 692. I know you know what those are. Lateral A was born. Just as HBC 692 became Talus, Lateral A has become a year-round favorite. So there you go.
Very good. Yeah. When it's HBC, that's always just like a yet to be named hop.
Yes.
That's all that ever means. So
yes. Yeah. So delicious beer. Definitely kind of a funky, very hoppy type IPA, which does
bold
go along with the bold, right? The bold name. But yeah, it kind of reminds me. I don't know. Like, let me look. Hold on. I'm trying to look and see what the alcohol is on it, because it's kind of got, it's a 7%. Yeah, so it's kind of got a very hoppy double IPA vibe to it. Mm-hmm. Super strong, and not the super strong, but strong, right? Strong hoppy flavor. Excellent. I enjoy it. It's good.
Very good.
How about you?
Well, I dipped into my old barley wine stash again. Big barley wine fan. So I am drinking a beer from Dancing Gnome out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which I may have had a beer from them before. I can't remember, but whatever. It's called Thin Places. It is a barley wine that is aged in 14 months in a blend of bourbon and apple brandy barrels. So it's aged in bourbon barrels. Some was aged in apple brandy barrels, and they blend them together. So this is an 11% barley wine. So not, that's kind of almost the low point, maybe 10, 11% for barley wines. So it does, like, it's not like a super sweet, thick in terms of barrel aged barley wine. But it does, you can definitely always get that kind of vibe when the apple brandy barrels to me, like often kind of give it this kind of like interesting sweetness and seem to kind of thin these beers out more than like a bourbon barrel, which can seem to kind of add to the stickiness of the beer. So this is pretty interesting. Yeah, it's definitely not in the line of those like intensely thick barley wines that a lot of breweries are making now, but a much more drinkable, approachable, dangerous a bit, 11%. Yeah, because it's kind of easy to drink. So actually, this one I was reading the Untapped description. This one just says bourbon barrels, so maybe a previous one was aged in apple brandy, but I definitely feel the apple brandy, so I don't know. So yeah, 11%. Dancing Gnome is a good brewery out of Pittsburgh, and I've enjoyed a lot of the stuff I've had from them. Thin places, they say, thin places are places of energy, a place where the veil between this world and the eternal world is thin. So I think that definitely Wisconsin Stadium will be rocking, and I think that may be a place, Camp Randall will be a place, a thin place, a place where there is a place of energy, and where and a place where the veil between the world and the eternal world is thin. Because truthfully, if WSU wins, I will feel as close to the eternal world, at least the good Christian version of the eternal world that I could possibly feel.
Yeah.
Or at least for the ones that go there. So yeah. So I thought that actually I didn't plan that. I just made that up as I went along. I just grabbed a random beer out of my cellar. Let's be honest. So yeah, excited to have lots of beers, lots more beers this weekend, and have some another Wisconsin beer. A classic one is the what is that called? Spotted Cow.
Yep.
The classic cream ale. They call it a farmhouse ale. It's just like a real light beer, easy to drink. You can only New Glarus only distributes in Wisconsin, so I'll definitely be grabbing some New Glarus while I'm in Madison to have. So that'll be one of my go-tos. They've been kind of a legend because they did distribute to some places, and then they just decided to pull back and only distribute to Wisconsin. And so now a lot of people kind of seek their beer more. And so New Glarus, if you're going to Wisconsin, you probably already know who they are, but if you're going to Wisconsin, check out a New Glarus beer. It's nothing that's going to blow your mind, but it's just that's definitely a local craft beer, a local go-to. And I think they're really delicious, really. Spotted Cow. They also make kind of some sour beers, some fruited beers that, if you like those types of beers, check those out too. So yeah, beer. And Wisconsin. And cheese. We have lots of cheese. We eat a lot of cheese, of course. But now let's turn to some of the other sports this weekend. It was really just a weekend full of wins in Pullman. First, we'll look at the volleyball team, who hosted their own tournament and easily disposed of Cal Baptist, Belmont, and CSU Bakersfield. The interesting point that I'll say, I was talking to Jamie over at Coug Fan, and he was saying they lost a set to Belmont, and when they lost the set to Belmont, it was the first set they'd lost at home in non-conference in years. Like, it was some number of years, outside of, I think, like one match that they lost or something. It was years that they had lost a set in non-conference play, and then they lost one to Bakersfield as well. But overall, very dominant wins, in all three matches, Cal Baptist and Belmont and Bakersfield. Not like big names, but the only three matches they get at home in non-conference play, and the only three matches they're going to have at home for a long time, close to over a month, I believe. So it's good that they could come out and get those wins.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we expected, right? Like we would have been, I think, pretty disappointed had they had any sort of real trouble with any of those teams. So, and I think it was set up for them to be successful, and they were. So, as they continue to integrate people, I think it's a strong start so far. Losing to BYU was a bit of a missed opportunity. BYU is real good, but other than that, they've taken care of business. And what are they now? 5-1, right? So,
Yep.
So that's, yeah. I mean, that's about. It's not a dream start because beating BYU and being 6-0 would be the dream start, but it's a good start and no bad losses so far on the schedule. And I think they head out on another tournament, right? Like it's tournament after tournament here. Yeah.
It's two more tournaments. They go to the Fairfield Invitational at Fairfield University in Connecticut, and then they go to the University of Minnesota Diet Coke Classic to wrap up their schedule. And then they don't play. Well, I guess it's not more than a month; it's a few weeks. But they don't play at home again. Actually, October 7th. So it is more than a month because they open with 4 straight matches on the road in Pac-12 play. So, not the easiest start to the season in terms of home matches. So they won't be playing at home again until they host Oregon on October 7th, Friday, October 7th. So I did one standout when I was reading Kat's review of the weekend. This Laura Jansen, the transfer from Arkansas Little Rock, logged quite a few kills. So she seems to be stepping into that attacking role. That's definitely where they've lost some talent recently. So, the outside hitter type role. So good to see her coming in and stepping into that, because we know they have great defense with Magda and just all around quality with Pia. So lots of good stuff. Now looking at soccer, finally they've been able to get some wins. Now they've logged 3 in a row. Obviously, last we recorded right after they beat Seattle U on Thursday with a late match win. And that was, we led the podcast with that for all of our soccer fans. But now, they came back on Sunday night again, complaining a bit that wasn't on Sunday afternoon. I would have appreciated that. Came back on Sunday night and finally put the ball in the net, 4 goals against Denver in a 4-2 win. Maybe the two goals allowed kind of make you cringe a bit, but honestly, to see them, score 4 times is really nice.
Yeah, they were up 3-0 before halftime. And then in the second half, it seemed like they rotated the lineup pretty significantly. So it's not, so for people who don't know, college soccer, they can substitute freely. Unlike, professional soccer where now you get 5, but up until recently you only got 3, right? So, you're limited on subs. Somebody comes out of the game, they can't come back in. That's totally different in college. You can come in and out. So, free substitutions makes for a bit of a different deal. And when you look at the box score from that game, you can see WSU played a lot of people in that game that they might not otherwise have played. So they went up 3-0 before half, really dominated the first half. The second half, Denver got one back, and then Grayson Lynch had about as good of a skill type goal as you're going to see. She was just at the top of the box and hit a little curling shot to the far post. Keeper was just, frozen, couldn't really do anything to go up 4-1. just to sort of remind them that, yeah, we're in control here. And then I think Denver scored a goal like in the last minute to make it 4-2. So, Schulenberger was, unusually upbeat after the game. Cause he can be a little crabby, a little grouchy. And he was just like, yeah, it was good. And then, he said, well, I'm disappointed that, the goals and the thing he did talk about, and I think this is legit, which is, the goals that they tend to give up tend to be a little soft, tend to be a little weak. And, so they really do want to cut those down. So that's sort of his, point of contention is they're not really getting beat by other teams making good plays. They're sort of getting beat by them screwing up. And so that is something the coaching staff wants to fix. But, you're seeing right now where, some of the opportunities are now finally coming back in terms of all the shots on goal, and more of them are finding the back of the net now. And that's what you want to see. And, I was looking at their schedule earlier today, and, they got 3 more games before Pac-12 play, and they should win all 3. So, they'll continue to kind of work the kinks out there, but they're definitely in a spot where they should, frankly, be dominating their opponents. They don't play again until next Sunday. This Sunday, I guess it's Monday night as we record this, so they don't play again until Sunday. They got a week off, and then they play. I'm trying to remember who they play now, but it's somebody who's not very good.
Cal Poly.
There we go, Cal Poly. Yes, Cal Poly, and then I can't.
Now we get the noon start that Sunday,
and then St. Mary's. I know St. Mary's is the last one before Oregon State. So, they're kind of rolling right along and looking really good. And man, Lily Boyden, the freshman, she is something, man. She keeps playing a lot of minutes, and she's coming up with assists. She's got a couple of assists now. She is really good, man. They found not they really sort of unearthed a diamond in the rough with her, because she was, a top recruit, but she is very, very good. Just good as advertised. So it's nice when you bring in top 10 recruiting glasses, I guess. Those are cool. Yep.
Yeah, and then you have your like star center back decide to play another year, and all that stuff.
Yep.
That's nice. So if they can continue to stretch. I mean, the one thing we keep talking about, every match, majority has been played in their opponent's end. They're putting pressure on the goal over and over again, even against the quality or more quality opponents they've played. They're putting pressure on the goal. 27 shots in this one to 7, 8 shots on goal. That if you just keep pressure, that you'll find your way. And sometimes finishing in soccer is such a mental game, and players can really get in their head about it. So when the opportunity does come, they can, they're kind of just not ready for it. But if they can have more of these games, they scored 3 against Eastern. They should have had 3 against CLU, or at least they should have had 2 earlier, and then to get 4 against Denver, if they can close it out with some more big numbers in these final 3 non-conference matches that they should, like you said, they should be winning. That gives them a lot of confidence on that front, because we know that they can defend, and we know that they have a midfield that can distribute. So it just comes down to that finishing quality, and if they could build this confidence, I like their chances again. Obviously they're picked to be one of the top teams in the conference, and we expect big things out of them, and as we said, there hasn't really been nothing that dissuades you from that, other than the lack of finishing at times. But the fact that they're creating the chances, that's encouraging, and that makes you think they are as good as we hope they are.
Yeah, they are out shooting their opponents 80-23 so far. And let's see. Oh, this is only through, these stats are only through the Seattle U game. So that's even more.
So it's 107-30 now then.
There you go. So yeah, it's that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And you're gonna score more goals than not, doing it that way. So yeah, we like it. We like it. They are looking like I'm still super bummed they lost to Michigan, because that's a game that, potentially can, stamp a resume, but
get you at home.
They're on the right track.
That can get you at home. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's the type of stuff that gets you home matches in the tournament and stuff. So, but it's gone now. You got lots of opportunities to beat a lot of good teams in the conference play. So you can always get it back, and just don't falter in these last three and take care of business. That St. Mary's at St. Mary's, that could be a little bit more tough just having to travel down there, but they should win. And then you got Oregon State, Colorado, Utah to start it out. And again, should be a fun ride again with this team. I don't know, man. Any of y'all headed to Madison? I'll be around at probably the bar crawl on Friday. I'll be around at the official WC pregame. If you want to say hi, I've already had some people message me on Twitter and stuff about that. If you want to say hi, just say hi. I can't. Sorry. So one of y'all said hi to me at the Coug this weekend, and I do not remember your name. I apologize. But if you have Twitter or something, just send me a message. Remind me who you were. I'm really looking forward to this. I haven't went to traveled for a game like this, not a bowl game, not a Husky game, since I think the one we went to Boulder. So and we got
that's a long time ago.
I got some of the same playing buddies. We got Brian and Katie going with us, and they're much farther along in their relationship at this point. Very young at that point. But Amanda gets to do her first Cougar football trip. I'm excited for her for that.
That is so exciting.
Marnie, Corey, Adam, and Janae, they'll all be there. We'll have Emma, get to see Emma. She's going to ride up with us to Wisconsin. She's going to sit with us. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. If you want to say hi, don't be afraid. I'm a nice person. If I'm like talking to my friends, I might just say hi and then not be the nicest person for a sec, but that's okay. But it's all good. I like when I get to meet our listeners, so it's fun because we're all Cougs, so that's cool. If you want to follow us on socials, I'm at the Craig Powers on Twitter, at Craig W Powers on TikTok and Instagram, and then which I'll probably post some stuff about Wisconsin and stuff. I'm getting bad at Instagram, but I'll try to do better. Especially football season, I like to post stuff. I didn't post anything this weekend. Got to save that phone battery. If you want to follow Jeff, he's at Pod versus Everyone on Twitter. He has Instagram, but he doesn't post on it, so no reason to give that to you. Jeff just using it to stalk people. Come on.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. That's there's I see Twitter accounts like that too. So if let me check. I don't think we got any questions. I checked yesterday, and I don't think we got any questions on the pod. Nope. Podcast versus everyone at gmail.com. If you want to send us questions, comments, do that. If you want to give us, please, if you listen to this, please give us a subscribe and give us 5-star reviews, and tell us how cool or uncool we are in the review. I don't really care either way. I just want that 5 stars. So I'd appreciate that. And with all that, I guess I'll say go Cougs, Jeff.
Go Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Vaccinated.
Yep, you should.